Let me read a little bit from one of my favorite books, Blueprint for Black Power by Dr. Amos Wilson. In chapter 8, it's titled The Power Processes of the Ruling Class. And he has a few things to say that relate to what I'm talking about here today. He says, the exercise of power by the white male elite at the political economic level entails the domination and manipulation of the governmental and economic systems by that group to control the behavior and attitudes, limit the interests, shape the experiences, and thereby the consciousness of others. Now, who is shaping your consciousness? This speaks directly to what David Walker said. Why would you vote against your best interests? Well, one reason is you don't know what your interests are. The other reason is that someone else has shaped your very consciousness about who you are and what your obligation is to yourself and to your children's future. So much so that you would be willing to vote against your own self-interest because your consciousness has not been shaped by black culture and black history and the fact that you have a genealogy and a history that you should be proud of and that calls you to do certain things out of love for your people. If you are sitting out there, black person, because I don't have to worry about other groups, they have group consciousness. They practice nationalism among themselves. There's a recent article in the Los Angeles Times that talked about the fact that in Detroit, a city that's 85% black, the group that's doing the best lives in a place called Mexican Town, which is in Detroit. There's also another article that says 30% of all the Koreans that live in the United States work for other Koreans. Do you know what percentage of black people work for other black people? Probably less than 10%, probably less than 5%. I could do the math because the Census Bureau has statistics on it. If I had it in front of me, I could give you that. They practice consciousness. They practice nationalism. They practice collective and cooperative economics. We talk about it. We talk about it and we celebrate the principle of it. We're inspired by it, but like I said, inspiration without perspiration is nothing. It's nothing. So we have to put some action behind our inspiration. Amos Wilson goes on to say the ruling elite needs to control or heavily influence the media, educational curricula, and institutions, and all important information sources and services if its manipulation of the symbolic environment is to be effective. The media, come on, what's coming through your TV? What's coming over your radio? The dominant media or the powers that be want to keep black people singing and dancing and listening to church songs and telling jokes as much as possible and acting a fool on TV. They want us to do that, and we do it by our own volition. Our children are just steeped in the notion that I need to get all the money I can get so I can buy more medallions and more rims for my car and all of this kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with having material things, but when you are ruled by them, when you make your decisions about life or your self-interest based upon some material things that are temporary, brothers and sisters, temporary. When you make your life decisions about those things, you're going down the wrong road. And our children are going down the wrong road, and we are allowing them to by accepting all of the nonsense that bombards them every single day through the radio and the so-called black TV station and others. Negative images or useless images, useless information. that only empowers others because of the economic issues, the economic implications surrounding those media attempts to get our children's minds before they get 7 and 8 years old. Amos Wilson goes on to say, he quotes a book written by a guy named G. William Domhoff, The Powers That Be, Processes of Ruling Class Domination in America. And he says that there are 4 processes that we should pay attention to. One is the special interest process. Now he's talking about politics now. The policy formation process, the candidate selection process, and the ideology process. And in this particular chapter, Amos Wilson lays out very specifically explanations on those 4 processes and shows how they impact black people and how we can use those same kinds of processes to positively impact ourselves. Again, it goes back to David Walker's plea and his chagrin and his lamentation. Why do black people operate diametrically in opposition to our own interests? Why would we do that? And the trap is being laid if we continue after the party, if we continue in our euphoric state, if we go back to sleep or go into a coma. The trap is being laid for us to do that because of this monumental historic day that we're celebrating here on November the 5th, 2008. I don't have a lot more time, but I want to give you some more information from this book, Amos Wilson, The Blueprint for Black Power. He says, the African American community through its representatives has very little, if any, direct one-on-one or face-to-face influence on the day-to-day decision-making process of government or on the decisions of civil authority, which directly influence its quality of life. Gets back to proportional representation. Don't you want to be represented? Obviously, this time around, not enough people did. But that's exactly what he talks about here. There's more information in this section. I'm going to have to skip some of it because I've talked too much. We're about out of time. I want to read more, though. It says the African American community has far less influence on American governance processes than have many foreign nations, though it resides on American soil and participates in the election of its government. Can you imagine some foreign nations have more influence on what happens in this country than black people who live here, who toiled here, who died here, who've been here for 400 years? Can you imagine that? It's true, though. It's true. And finally, he says, under present circumstances, the government serves those who can best serve themselves. Now, this gets back to my statement about our interests, right? The government serves those who can best serve themselves. We have a personal responsibility in this election of Barack Obama and what happens after that. We have some things that we have to do because the government serves those who can best serve themselves. He goes on to say, and those who can best serve themselves are those groups who possess a strong group consciousness and identity, who know their interests well and pursue them with energetic single-mindedness, who are well organized, exclusive, and cohesive, who possess the requisite economic concentration of wealth and clout, who possess the political savvy and expertise, information processing and dissemination know-how, as well as the courage and the will to exercise power without being squeamish. Wow. I've always said that Amos Wilson, he was a genius. Died at a young age, age 53. This is the book he wrote. Look at it. One of the books that he wrote. You need to read Amos Wilson and understand what he's saying. I always say that he writes, in such long sentences. The guy, it was like he has so much inside of him, and once he started writing, it just came out. It just flowed and came out and came out. And I think that's why he has such long sentences, because there was so much to say and so little time to get it out. And such an urgency, to borrow a phrase from Dr. Martin Luther King and Barack Obama, such an urgency to inform his people. But let me end by reiterating this statement. People who know their interests well and pursue them with energetic single-mindedness. If you don't know your interests, 9 times out of 10, you're going to fall back where David Walker said we were in 1829, operating against our own best interests. So let's figure out a way that we can take this historic moment and rally around it to the degree that we can build a future that we can leave here for our children to stand upon, especially an economic future. If we don't do that, we will have squandered this tremendous opportunity. No, Barack Obama he's not going to be a panacea, he's not going to cure everybody's ill, he's not going to come and cut your grass and put gas in your tank and pay your house note. No, he's not going to do that. But he can cause us to work together, to cooperate together, to move to a higher level, because we've demonstrated already that we can do that because of how we supported him. And think locally. We have our own Barack Obama here in Cincinnati. His name is Christopher Smitherman. Oh, I know some people don't like him. That's fine. You can like him, you can dislike him, but you cannot deny that this man has made tremendous change in this city over the past less than 2 years. He has sacrificed tremendously, and I will continue to support him and endorse him and hold him up as a leader in this city. And you should too. You should appreciate him for everything that he has done. My name is Jim Klingman, and I really appreciate you for tuning in to Blackonomics. Many have called and asked for my latest book. It's Black Empowerment with an Attitude. And you can go to my website, blackonomics.com, and order the book.